Welcome guys, welcome to this video. In this video we are going to see how to import data from CSV to your database using chunking method. So I have 1 million records imported here, you can see, and I'm going to import it. I'm going to show you the code, how this all worked, and how we can use it using PHP. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Alright guys, so here we are, and I have this XAMPP installed on my computer and it is running currently. So if I go to database, I have nothing here, only a test database. Also I have a directory called test, and there is one file, index.php, where I have hello guys saying, which is you are seeing here. So straight away we're gonna write the functions to import our CSV and make things working for us. So first thing first, what I want to do, I want to create a database table, and here I'm going to call it users, and I'm going to give like 6 fields here. First going to be ID, and it is going to be auto increment. So I'm going to handle the employees data, so I'm simply going to create few fields here, employee underscore ID. Then I want to create first name, and then I'm going to create last name. Alright, we want gender as well, and spelling should be correct. Then after gender we need email. So the file I'm going to use, it's going to have more fields than only this. What we are doing, we are going to process few of the fields. So I'll show you in a moment, don't worry about it. So say here age, after email, then I say salary, what the employee earns, and also the father underscore name, so employee's father name. We can also add one more, and that's going to be created underscore at. And what I want to do for this is I want to add a timestamp, and I just want the default value to be current timestamp, so not null, current timestamp. Alright, and for the sake of making things quicker, I'm going to give everything here as varchar. So any value we pass, it's going to be varchar. You can store int for age, but for now I'm gonna put varchar just to make things quicker. So I'm gonna pass 150 as a length, and I'm gonna pass same length here as well. Alright, so now what are we gonna do? We're gonna save it. So we have a database table ready. If I go here, email, first name, last name, gender, email, age, salary, father name, and create an underscore. Structure wise, we have primary key set to here, and varchar for the rest of it. Timestamp will insert automatically, so we don't need to pass it. Alright, good enough. Now what we need here is, first of all, I'm going to start with another file. I'm going to call this file functions.php, and this file I'm going to have. Alright, so I'm going to go first here, reveal and finder. So if I see here I have 2 files, I'm going to paste here one more file. It's people 1 million. So it's a CSV file, 250 MBs, and it has 1 million records of people. So if I open here this file, you will notice we have this data. So here on the header, the first is the header. So here we have name, prefix, first name, middle name, last name, gender, email, father's name, mother's name. If we go further, we will see more data coming. So we have zip, state, country, place, phone number, so many, so salary. So if you remember, we added here a few fields. So we only gonna pick this data from this file, not all data, because it's gonna be a very long video if we're going to deal with every single column. So this is the file we will be working with. It's 1 million records. I'm gonna close it for now. And for the database connection, I think it's better to put database connection in the index.php. So first thing what I'm going to do, I'm going to start here PHP tag, and I'm going to require the functions.php file here. So we open the bar here. So functions.php in the same directory. So now all we need to do is just say functions.php like this. I want to see the headers, so I want to say here ini_set, and I'm going to pass here display header to 1. So display headers, and the value going to be 1, so that we see the headers. And also I want header reporting, and we want to pass here e_all. Okay, so this is the starting point here. I don't need terminal for now. So here what we want to do, we want to create a connection first of all. So I simply say here $connection, and here let's add a comment, connection to database. Alright, $connection, and that's going to be mysql connect. Now I use mysql in the basic queries just to making the point clear to everyone. We can use PDO, we can use object-oriented programming. We will see later on if we require to, but so that more and more people can take benefit, we use mysql in this one. So here, first thing we need to pass is localhost, and then we need to pass the username, then the password. I don't think so I have any, and the database name, which is the test. So if you remember, this is the one we created, tests. So that's the database we are using. Alright, so we have it here. Now what we can say after this, if, and we want to check for the error. So mysql li_connect _error. If we have an error, what do you want to do? We want to some kind of error we want to see. So we can say here echo connection error. When you work with this kind of code, it's better to have the logging system working. So I have a video that I created how to create a log. You can check that one. In this video, we are going to check the logs as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply going to paste the code for it, and I will explain to you a bit how the logs work. And let's see. So here's a function I'm going to paste in functions.php. Let's start here. And first thing, it's going to be the comment function to generate logs. Alright, so we can see what is happening. So we paste here a code here. Now let's see what this code is all about. So here we are saying generate log. We are going to pass here message type, and message type going to be error or info, what exactly it is, and the message of what exactly the message is. And we go into the document root of the folder. So the document root is the test directory. Then we say that there is a logs directory, and we create a folder for today, and inside that folder we need to save the logs with the date in .log. So it is going to create a file which is going to call log_current date and .log. So every day there's going to be a new file for that particular day, and here we are simply saying file put content, and that is going to append the log each time. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here. The variable says connection error. What we can do, we can call our function, generate log, copy this from here, take it here. I'm going to pass it like this. Okay, I copied wrong. Sorry about that. Let's copy the generate log only. So this is going to be the message, and the message type going to be the error. So this is an error that we are facing. Alright, so now also if you want to show then which file and which line number this error is coming from, so we can simply say here space, and I'm going to put comma and then file, and then here we can say ._file, and also if you want to tell the line number, so you can say line like this, and then ._line. Alright, so it's gonna save this, and it's gonna work just fine. So, alright, so far so good. We have the connection here. Now, first thing what we need is we need to read data. So we say here, we're gonna create here if condition if, and I say here get data from CSV and generate smaller CSVs. So generate smaller CSV. Okay, so we have a CSV with the 1 million records. We are not going to process it straight away, because if we do that, it's going to take a long time. We're going to face issues in our server as well. So I'm going to take approach where I'm going to generate smaller CSVs and then going to process those CSV, and that's going to be a bit faster. If you have any other suggestions, do leave in the comments, so I will try that too. Now for now, we see this approach, how it works. So let's see. So what I do, I crawl this function, and we are expecting true coming back from this function, and then we do something here. So do something here. So this is the next step. So first we need this function. So in this function, what I want here, that let's say we want to have 1,000 records. So each new CSV will have 1,000 records, and the path to the current file, the one we are using. So the one we are using is people1million.csv. So I'm going to pass this one here, people1million.csv. All right. So we pass the path, as well as we are telling that, okay, break the CSV to multiple CSV with the 1,000 records in each of those CSVs. So take this function, go to the functions.php. Now here I say another comment, function break large CSV into smaller CSVs. All right, so here is a function, and here we're going to use this function. So what I'm going to do, I say here $chunk size, because we're passing a size there, 1,000 per file, and also the file path, so we can use this. So I'm gonna call here path. All right. So these two values we require to work. So here I simply say $CSV and file. I'm creating this variable, and here I'm gonna call it file and pass the $path in it. Alright, and this is going to get us all the records. If you want to see, we can see it as well. So let's say if I want to say var dump, and I say $CSV file, and then I put exit, and here I say echo pre, so we can see them in a properly displayed manner. And now, after this, all we need to do, go back here, go to this and refresh. We have allowed memory size exhausted. Okay, so we have a memory issue here. So what we need to do, we need to increase the memory limit. Sorry. So here we go in index.php. On top of this file, I'm going to add another ini set. This time it is going to be memory and memory limit. Single one there should be. And I want to set it to unlimited for now. It's just going to cross here -1. And it should work for us. Now let's see if it is. So refresh. Alright guys, so I left my computer for a few minutes. It was taking time, so we couldn't just see the straight away files, because it's a 1 million records, it takes time. So your system has to be good for it if you want straight away output. So here what I did is I added the 0 index as well as the first index, because we just want to see that data is there. So if I go here and refresh, you will see here that the first on 0 index we have header. So all the values like name, first name, and the values of those is coming from the second index here. So what we can do here, I don't need this header, so we can remove these. So because we're just gonna get a few values, and we need to know on which index what value is, and I already have a note of it, so I'm gonna put that here. So for example, we have the employee ID at the 0 index, and then we have the first name at second index, so we can catch those values. So we will be doing that. So what I do simply, I'm gonna remove the header basically this, the titles. So for that we will use PHP function here, unset, and we pass the 0 index like this, and it will remove it from the data. So we will not have it will be there, not in the CSV, but not in the code. Now we have the data doing fine, so we can process further. So what do we want to do? I put here removing headers. whatever you call it, title. Alright, now after this, what we want to do, we want to go through this file, and each time we want to process 1,000 records. So we have chunk size coming here, and I'm going to use a function called array chunk. So if we search about this function, and here array chunk, and let's say the W3 school should go there. Alright, there is one example. Let's see what they are showing. So here they say we have an array of cars. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements, and they say array chunk, cars, and then 2. So chunking with 2. So here you can see that it created an array of arrays where we have on 0 index, we have array which has 2 values. Volvo and BMW. So it broke it to 2, and the next index will be Toyota and Honda. So if you see here, index 1, and then we have Toyota and Honda, and then the index 2, we have here Mercedes and Opel. So it broke like in 2, 2, 2. So we are going to do exactly the same thing. We want to break our 1 million records into 1,000 instead of 2, 2. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do here, chunking the data. So here I say, take it up a bit. I wrote this. And we're going to put here for each loop. And here I'm going to pass the function. So I say array chunk, and we are going to pass here. If you remember here, we are passing the array first and the number then. And the same thing we need to do here. So we're going to pass the array, which is CSV file data. So I copy this, paste here, and then the number. So the number going to be the chunk size that we are passing in this function. So that's 1,000. So pass it here like this. So what it is going to be, it is going to return us 1,000 records each time. So we can loop through those records. So here I say as, and then I put a counter here, and then I say $each chunk. Alright, we can see as well what exactly is happening here. Now when you deal with large set of data, if you're using loop, and let's say it's over 100,000 records, you need to make sure that your script runs and you won't face any errors. So you can set here a set time limit, and what exactly this does is set time limit is here, and it's going to reset the limit when each function of a loop goes. So it's going to restart the counter, so you will never face issues with running timeout or script ran timeout. So it's going to fix that issue. Alright, so here what we do, we are going to call another function here. So I'm going to call here a function. It's going to be export to CSV smaller CSV. Alright, and I pass here each chunk and as well as the counter. Okay, we're gonna create this function, and this function will deal with this. So here simply let's add it actually. So I can copy here function, and here this goes. Okay, and we are expecting 2 parameters here, so we'll be passing that. I also want to add a string, and basically to display like how many files have been processed. So for that, if you want to give the status, you can put something like this. So we can say here $output, which is going to be empty string initially, and then what we want to do, we want to say here when the counter we have, so here we say $output is equal to ++$counter. So we are increasing the counter by 1, and then here is, we can say echo, and then we can put $output dot, and then we can say here chunk CSVs completed. Alright, so okay, and it should be fine. This should be, let's pass it as null initially instead of string, because we are passing here a number, and then we are putting it like this. Okay, and you will see in a moment when we will be working with this part. So And if you remember this function, we are passing inside an if condition in our index.php here. So that means we either have to pass, we need to return boolean here basically. So we say if the function goes through this successfully, then at last we want to pass here return true. That means it's always good. Alright, so now let's deal with this function. So this function basically we want to break our CSV here. We already chunked it. Now let's see how we can process it further. So here we say $chunk data. Alright, and also we have here $counter. So these two things we have, each chunk and counter. And inside this function, what we can do, we can say preparing data for CSV. Okay, and let's prepare the data. So I create a variable here, data new, I call it empty array initially, and then now what we want to do, we want to look for each to our chunk. So remember, we had 10 million records. We broke those records using this function into 1,000. So you know, we pass here, okay, break it into 1,000. So each time we are passing each chunk has 1,000 records in there. So to go through those records, we need to use for each loop again. So we're passing here the same. So we are going to use the for each here, and I'm going to pass here chunk data, $chunk data, and as $CSV, let's call it string. Okay, so CSV files are basically strings. So if I open this file, you will see the data here is in the string order. So here you see here, it is separated with comma and just appended to next to each other. So it is just a string. So that's why we are using the CSV as a string here. We are processing it. Here we're gonna check for if, and here you wanna say if not in array, and we have array here, so we can use this array. So what we want to do, we want to check here that if $CSV string is not in array data new, then we need to do something about it is true. Okay, so then we return is going to be, we say okay, this array put inside of this CSV string. So it is going to enter the CSV string inside this array only once. So we are making sure that there going to be no duplication of data. And here, then we can say today date, and pass it to date, and the format I want is capital Y -M -D HI. So it's gonna be timestamp basically. And here we're gonna say $file name. So we want to generate the small file. So here it's going to be inside files directory. It's going to be string. So files directory. I call it employees file dash. So we want to see the file number. So I say here $counter ++. We need to do concatenate using dot here and dot here as well. Here we can pass your time as well on, and we can give the time like here today. Today. Okay, I made a mistake here. It's a today date. So I copy this and paste here. Alright, and then at last we want to give the extension CSV file. So it's going to be a CSV file. Good enough. Now we generated a function that saves the logs, so we can use that function the same way we used it here. I'm going to copy this from here and I'm going to go in functions.php, and after this here we can put it here like this. The message type going to be info, and here what we want to say, we want to say generated, and then it's going to append the file name and that. So what we want to do here is simply break the string, and here I will pass the file name. So $file name, copy this and put it Alright, so it's going to generate a file, and when it generates the file to this directory, it is going to also save a log for us, and that's brilliant. So let's see what we need now. So what I do now, I'm going to say $file path, and that is going to be basically this, so we can put it here like this, and put it here, and then I want to put a code, and that code basically going to generate the CSV. So I say here $fp, it's going to be f open, and this is how you generate CSVs basically. So here $file path, alright, and the mode is going to be write, so it's going to write the file. So semicolon here. Alright, so far so good. So it's going to write the file. Here I'm going to say for each, because we're going to go through the data, and the data is the data new array, because that's is getting the data here, and we are going to generate the file for that data. So it's going to be s, so I say here $line, and then here we say $val equals to explode with comma, okay, and then we're going to pass it $line, semicolon, and here we say f put CSV, so we're putting it to CSV, so $fp, comma, $value, so whatever string it is creating, just going to put it there. And after all of this, we say f close $fp. Alright, so this is the function which is going to create the smaller CSVs for us. So I can put here a comment as well. So we say here function to generate smaller CSV files. Now let's see, so far we wrote a lot of code, so let's see how it works. So what I do here basically, I'm going to go here and refresh, and we get better. Okay, wonderful. So first of all, we get the functions line number 17. So if I go here, and line number 17 is here, so we are generating logs, and it is having issues with generating the folder with 777. Remove the server root, and I'm going to say don't go to server root, just go to the current directory and create logs folder there, and try again. Okay, now we have logs folder there as well as the logs file. So you can see that the log underscore current date, and then it is info generated file it is mentioning and telling everything about it. So files, now we need to check why the file is not there. So the other error is fopen file, there is no that file there. So let's see why is that. Okay, so we go to here, and I mentioned here this, but I never mentioned to create a file, so that's an issue. So what I do, I simply create a, instead of putting in the code, or you can put the same thing that we did here. If the directory is not there, just create it, so, or we can do that too. So let's do it. So in here, we have files here, so we can create it. If directory is not there, and what is going to be, so here we call it $file directory, which is going to be files, and if this directory is not there, so actually it's going to be like this, and we need to pass it like here. Okay, so we're creating the directory and then dealing with it. So let's go back and refresh and see. So now we go here, and you can see now it is putting here a lot of content. So, okay, what happened just here? So this is the chunk completed and the chunk size. It created the files here. So if I go to files directory, you can see that there's a small CSV created. So all of the small CSV created very quickly, 1,000 of them, and each CSV have 1,000 records. So if we go to log file, you will see that we have logs as well. You can see every time it generated a file, it created a log. Okay, so it says like, okay, this file, so the file under files with the name of file 11, and at this time is created. So yeah, they're storing it as well. So here, the output you're seeing here, that is happening from, I did echo somewhere. Okay, here, see. So what we can do here, we can put a break so that next time it give us a new line. So mainly we have our code working, we have the CSVs generating. So if I go to any of the CSVs, so let's say, let's open this one. So we see there is data as well. So now we need a function that will read each CSV one at a time and will insert in our database. Alright, so to this table. That's the ultimate goal here. So let's do it. Alright, so let's write a function straight away. So what I do is simply say here function, and then it's going to be get data from, ultimately we are getting it from CSV, so we can call CSV, and this time we are saving it, so I call it and save. You can name it anything you like, so I'm just gonna do it this way. So yeah. So basically what happened is this function ran, it came here, it generated the CSV, returned true, goes here. Now this portion is done, right? Now we're creating another function, which is this one, so we can call this function here. So we are saying, okay, now save data to database from chunked CSVs. Alright, so we simply call that function here. And what I want to do, I want to say each time the maximum amount you can pass in a query, like in one query you can insert 1000 records at max. In any single query you can send 1000 records in a single time, so you can insert in database 1000 records at once. So we can say here if we want to do any less than 1000, but not more than 1000, so it's going to be, so you can pass here a limit, so that's I'm going to pass here. And second thing, we need to pass here connection. So we have a connection here to database, and that is required to save the data, so we're going to pass the connection here. Alright, so let's receive this. So I go to functions here, and here we say $chunk size and also $connection. Alright, so these two things really matter here. Alright, so what I do here simply, first thing first, we need to work with the directory. So I see here our path, we are mentioning the path where the directory, our files are, where we know that our files are in files directory. Now you can pass that too in this function if you want to extend it if you want to, but for now I'm just going to leave it like this. So I see here $files. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a function, use a scanner. It's going to scan this path and going to give us all the files in it. So to run this function directly, because we already have the files generated, if we go to here and see your files, the files are already there. So we need to, for now, we don't need to run this function, right? Because files are there, we can straight away process them. So we can simply try to save it, and we can actually see the output as well. So here I say files, and what I do, I'm gonna loop through these files, through each file. Okay, so for each pass file, that's $file, and next step going to be the first we see what is happening. So it's a $$, file in it. So at least we'll be able to see what is going on. So here, I refresh, and you can see that we have something going on here. But we need to put an echo pre, so we can see it properly. And now if I go refresh, you can see we have this file. So file names are here. One first is this, then this is this. There is some files like dot and dot equal, dot and double dot, and that's in the Mac OS. So we will put a filter for it, but basically you get the idea. We're getting all the files here. Alright, so we have file name. So what we can do here, we simply say, first I put a condition. So it's going to be if $file is not equal to this dot, and I can do is I can copy this condition again, and then I say dot dot. Then there is also one big Mac OS it comes, so ds_store. So you need to check for that too, and we want to check if the file exists. So we say file _exists. Alright, so if the file exists only, then we need to process it, otherwise there is no point. So for checking the file, we say pass here a directory, so it's going to be files, or you can pass here. We already defined the directory on top, so it's a path here, and then we need to pass here concatenation slash, and then the file name, which is $file. Alright, and if the file is present, then what do we want to do? So we are processing each file, and each file has 1,000 records, so I want to make sure that we won't run out of time. So I say here set time limit one more time, and I give it 30 seconds. It resets at every loop. And then here I say read CSV and save to database. So I create another function here. Alright, and this function will take this path to the file. So that's the first parameter. After that, it's going to take the chunk size that we are getting in this function on top, and at last it's going to get the connection. Now this function we are calling inside this function, so we don't need to define it in the index.php. So I'm just going to copy this and paste here function like this, and now we need to say here first is the, let's call it $file name, then comma, then $chunk size and $connection. Alright, these three values are available. Now I say here we need to create a string, so I say here $query data. I'll set it to go to empty string for now. Alright, so also I'm going to put here a counter, so I say here $counter and for insertion. So each time we insert, we will set a counter. So this is the variable I need, and also I'm going to put a simple counter, so counter equals 0. And yeah, so now what we want to do here is I'm going to say, and also I want to have two global variables. To create a global variable, you simply can say global if you want to use a global variable. So I say here $query array. Okay, so I'm not going to set here, I'm just going to call this, and then here global, and this is going to be $all IDs from CSV. Alright, so this is going to be, I'm going to get the all IDs for CSV, and we will be able to check if all the data is inserted correctly or not, because we need to check it as well, otherwise we might face a problem if you're processing this much data. So here I simply say if $handle, which is equal to fopen, and here we are passing the file, actually file name, copy this and paste here. So we are saying okay, read this file, and the mode is going to be read. Alright, and here it's going to be inside bracket, and then here is not equal to false. So this, then we want to do something because we are reading here. So what are we going to do? We're going to simply say a while loop, and we want to say $data it equals to f get CSV. So this time we are getting the data. I'll pass here the handle, and then we say here the chunk size, not the data, chunk size, and also I'll pass here a comma. Alright, and then what we want to do, we want to see here like this, and inside it I say each time 1,000 insert into database. Okay, so we want to insert 1,000 at once so that we do less queries to database. So we have a counter here, and this counter will check if the insertion happened. If insertion happened, we can monitor it with this counter. So I simply say here plus this counter, so each time loop runs, and then I simply say here if this counter divided by 1,000, because we are inserting 1,000 records at one time, and the remainder if it is 0 after dividing with 1,000, what do we want to do? We want to increase the $counter Alright, and also we want to say $query data that we created initially is gonna be the empty string. So that's the two things we're gonna do. Alright, so far so good here. So what do we need now? I'm gonna put here another check, and that's gonna be if not in array, and this is going to check for $data 0, and here I'm gonna check for this variable where we have all the IDs from CSV, and we will fetch those IDs for now, but I'm just gonna pass here for now. And here the third parameter need to be true here, true. So if not in array, we put this variable, and then we say okay, put the $data 0 in it. Okay, so it is just checking. It is simply getting because we are reading the files, so we are collecting all the IDs here. I need to create these variables outside as well, so I create here as this, and it's gonna be empty array. And there was one more that I set as global, so it's query array. So set it here, $query array. Okay, so now here we will get the IDs of each record. Now let's create a query. So we need to create the string that we initially defined as empty. So let's deal with this query data, because this is the one that will go in insertion query. So it's going to be equals to dot. So we are appending here, and we want to say that query needs to start with a bracket. Now if I go to, let's say for example, Google, insert multiple values in table, query SQL. Let's see if I can show you something like that, what I'm trying to do now. So here, yeah, here it is. So it says insert into table. We have columns here, and then it says values, and then we have values going like this. So one parentheses and values, and then another set is parentheses and values. So it's going to be, in our case, these things going to be thousands. So we are inserting 1,000 at one time, and the column name is going to be only here on once. So I'll show you in a moment how this works. So we go here. So here I saw the parentheses, and I simply put here a single quote, and then I put here dot. And the employee ID we need first of all. So employee ID is on the index 0. So, and then here we want to pass here single quote again, then a comma, and after this comma, single quote again, dot. This time we want the second value. In fact, if you remember, we created a table where we need these values. So I told you that I made a note of like these values. I know which index these values are on. So we have the employee ID already on 0 index. So for the second is the first underscore name, which is on the second index. So it's going to be $data second index. Then it's going to be like this, single quote and comma. After that again, we want to pass here single quote and double quote dot $data last name, which is on the fourth index. So after this we make sure that we run only 1,000. So we say here query array, and what we want to pass here, we want to pass here the file name and the counter as a key first. So we have the file name coming here, and we want to pass it here, and then $counter. Okay, and in a moment I'll show you why I'm doing it like that. So here I simply say query data, which is this string, and then we want to trim it. So we need to remove the final last comma, which is because each time it is going to append to here to this query data, you notice there is a comma at the end. So from the last time when it appends here, we want to remove the comma last time only. So we pass here like this. So it is going to remove the last comma. And we see now how our query looks, so you will be able to see. So here this loop runs, and this is going to do. And And so far so good, all looks fine here. I think okay, file name it is not, and that query array will be ready. And after that I'm also going to take this function to, for saving, I'm going to call another one. So I'm going to call here save query to database, and in this we will pass here $connection $query array. This is a separate function we will create. So in here I say f close $. Alright, so this should be inside if statement. Yeah, now we don't have this function, so let's deal with this. So I say here public function. I forgot this is not class, so we just create function here. And here we need to do our insertions. So for inserting data, I also want to have logs so we can see what is happening. Otherwise we will be lost. So here I go to index.php. Here we have the log generating. So I copy this. So if we reach this function, we want to log it. So I say here info, and I call it like this: save to database function ran. Okay, so we will know like this function executed. After that, what I want to do, I want to get the global function. So I say global, and I'm going to create a one. So it's going to be $inserted in database. Alright, and here I say insert query based on array. The array we are passing, the query array that we are getting here. Alright, so now let's do this. So because first of all, let's see what we're getting. So otherwise it might be a bit confusing. So let's copy this. So we are getting connection on query, and here I simply say var dump, put these values, and say, let's see if we had. Now I'm just gonna comment this. We don't want any, or actually let's have it. Now let's go here and refresh. FC open, we get this error. Alright, so this, I just corrected it. There was issues with the bracket, so now it's alright. And we are getting the output of connection and also the Q array. So what exactly this query array is, if you see here, so basically we have the file name and as a key, and then inside it we are saying bracket start, and this is the value. So it goes a value till here, the values you can see. So this is going to insert when this particular query values, and after that this another value come here till this point, and so on. It goes on for the 1000 records one by one. So if you remember the thing I talked to you about, like when we inserting it, we will be having this like 1000. In here it's just inserting 2. So the same thing is happening here for us, and we have like 1000. It's just depending. Okay, and then the same is happening here. At last we have 1, and if you notice that it doesn't have the comma here for the last value, and that is because of the frame I added that here. Okay, so far so good. We have this data here. I'm gonna remove this for now, and we need to run the query. So here, as we have this multiple, so we will be again looping it. So so what I say for each, and I put this query array there. So it's gonna be $query array. Let's say as $index, and also let's create array. Let's call it that. And then here I first set this set time limit. I'm gonna reset it so that our program won't fall anywhere. And here we want to check before running the query. So here I say if not in _array, and here I'm going to put $index. Okay, so these keys basically. So these are the indexes, and here we have inserted data. So we want to check if it is not in there. Okay, if it is not in there, then put in there and execute the query. So here insert, here we go, and we are saying put inside it index. Okay, and then we say execute a query. So simple query now, mysql query $connection. And then I say here insert into, and our database name is users. So if you remember, I created it here, the name of users. Currently it is empty, so we want to set values here. So first we need to pass this portion of query. So these columns, we need to tell what columns we have, and if we see here the structure, we have these columns. Let's pass these columns one by one. So here first column is going to be employee underscore ID. Let's break it down so it's easy to read. So employee ID, comma, the second one is first underscore name, then we have last underscore name, then we have gender, email, age, I don't know why it is email, then age, and after that we have salary. Spelling needs to be correct, father underscore name, and then here in the query we want to say after this, so last element doesn't have the comma, so be careful about that, and then we say here values, and it's gonna be again values like this, but in our case we have an array, so we simply put here dot. We are going to pass in this, it starts from here, and we're going to pass the keyword like this. So if you remember here that this is going to put this particular string, the whole, in here. So when it executes this, it's going to insert all these data at once, and then the second one. So it's just like that. It's going to do it here. And yeah, so far so good. And we also can add the log if it is successfully happened. So you can have log here as well. So after for each, I put here info, and it's going to be insert query ran. We can pass a number because we have, actually we need to put it inside the loop then. But if you do a lot of logging and inside loop, it's going to create a big file, so be careful about that. And we can pass here $index, so which it's going to tell us which file is processed. So here $index. Alright, so yes, it should be. There's a small letter in our query. We can put it like this. We need to put it here and then semicolon outside of it. So it goes like this. It should be fine now. This is going to be $index, not index just. Alright, I can remove this pre. I also used a variable, I remember in this one we don't have it outside, so it's an array, so we can create it outside too. So $this equals empty array. So let's see if it works. If I go to here, we have nothing in database, and I go here and refresh. We still have nothing in database. I think it's nothing. Okay, it inserted 1,000. Okay, it inserted 1,000, but it stopped afterwards. So what happened? Let's see. So this, what happened is basically we go here. So we are calling this function. We said insert 1,000 in one go. So if I go to this function here. Here we said okay, scan the files. It is scanning the files. We pass to this function. This function is checking for 1,000 each time, and then putting it to save to database. And then here it goes database. Alright, so I have an exit here on the line 200, so we need to remove it. Because this function, if you see, this is the final function, save query database, which is inside the loop. So here, okay, so we have this inside here. It's not in loop here, but it has inside here a loop, you can see. So it's ran only for single file, exit stopped it. So make sure you don't have it. So now it should be fine. So if I go here now, I'm gonna go to users, we have 1000 records, I go to operations, and I'm gonna say that I empty this table so that we can work on it again. So now we have nothing in this table. I go here and refresh, and we printing B somewhere. Okay, I'm not sure where I'm printing this B. I'll fix it later on. So let's test it. So I simply refresh. It goes to the files. You can see that it is processing the files, and keep on processing the files. So what I'm gonna do, we're gonna stop it, and we're gonna run all at once. So this as well as this. So it's gonna generate files first, and then gonna save this in the database all together. So that we alright guys, so let's do the final tests. Our function is all set. I go here in browse, and I see operations. I'm gonna delete everything from here. So we have an empty database. Now I go to the files. Inside files we have pre-generated files. So I open this folder, I go inside it, I delete all the files. Okay, so it is asking password, I'm just allowing it. Now the files are gone. Okay, so now what our functionality is going to do is going to first create the CSVs, and once the CSVs are done, it's going to do the save in the database. Also, I go to logs, and I'm going to delete this log file because it's past logs. We need new logs now. So okay, it's not able to delete it. Let's go to the folder. Try to delete it from here. Okay. Alright, it is deleted. It's no longer there. Alright, so far so good. Okay, let's run it. Let's see what happens. I refresh it. Alright, this time it is generating the files. You can see that number of files that it's generating. It is giving us output here. So this number of files it already generated. So far, if we go to database, okay, insertion already started. You can see here. So if I go to logs, so we can simply follow through logs. So I go to log file. Let's see the status here. So I simply go to, now you can see that if you put too much logs and if you're dealing with a lot of data, your file can get very big. So whenever you put logs, be careful if you're dealing with loops. So to explain you how things are working, I added it. So otherwise I would add it once the process is complete. So you can see that insert query ran for this file, insert query ran for this file. So it's doing it. So scroll down. Keep on dynamically adding the content here. Even if it is that fast that I'm not able to match the scrolling. So we can see the database simply. Yeah, I'm gonna leave this for a while so that it completes to 1 million. Alright guys, it's still going. So it's almost there. Alright, so we have all the data inserted, all good. Now, I want to add one more thing before we complete it today, because it's done, but how we check that all the data is inserted or not, if something is skipped or something is inserted incorrectly. So what I'm going to do for that, I'm going to use another file, because 100,000, 1 million is something you can do, but it will take time again. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use a small file. So I'm going to here, and I have a file with 100k records, so I'm going to copy and paste that file here. So now this file we will be processing. You can see the size one is only 27 MBs, and yeah, so this will be a bit quicker. And here I'm going to comment this one. Actually copy first and comment then, and here we will be processing it. So this time it's gonna, instead of 1 million, we want to select people 100k this, so 100k. Okay, the rest all stays the same. I just want to have 1,000 and 1,000 each time for 100k as well. So yeah, that looks alright. So now what we want to do, we're going to go to the functions. Here, if you remember that we created a variable, it's here, all IDs for CSV. So whatever IDs we have in CSV, we are getting here. So when we read data, we take the ID and we put inside this array, and we can access this particular variable, and then we can match it with the database. So whatever data we have here. Alright, so I want to create a new table so that we can use the data there for the 100k records. I don't want to use this 1 million records because I will use it somewhere else, so I don't want to insert it again because it takes some time. So what I'm going to do for that, I go to this database again, and we have users table. I go to operations, and here it is about database. So if I click here, operations, and here, now if I say it says copy table 2, so I say here, copy this table to users 1, and I hit this, so it's going to create a users 1 table. And I'm going to go to, actually I'm going to work on this one, so operations, and I'm going to say tricking. Okay, so this one now empty, and we can now work with the files. So if I go to here, and our files is here, so I need to put in the finder, files. I need to delete these files, so we generate again. Alright, files are gone now. We create a function, and let's create that function first. So here at the bottom, function, I call it check if all insert. Alright, so this is the function which is going to check everything. So checks if all records are inserted correctly. Alright, now here what we want to do, we want to say global dollar all IDs from CSV. So this is the one where we have all the IDs. This function will require the connection to the database because we need to check in there. And here I'm going to say $SQL, which is going to be a query, mysql and basic query, and I'm going to pass a dollar connection. And I'm simply going to say select all from, actually we can get the employee IDs, employee underscore ID from users. Now we want to use users 1, remember, so we changed it, so we need to change it. The database stays the same, but here we need to change the users 1. Okay, so it should be fine. And then I say here while, usually we first check, so it's if mysql rows $SQL. Then what we want to do, we want to say while $row equals mysql fetch a sock associated array, $SQL is passed here, and we simply say okay. Then what we want to do, we want to say var dump $row. Okay, so currently it is empty, and if I run this function, it will go to index.php where we have this. It is looking for 100k, that's alright. 1,000 this. Now we need to call that function as well. So the check if all inserted. So once this is done, we can pass it here, and we need to pass the connections. So just like the before functions, we pass connections here. And what I do, I'm gonna simply execute it instead of showing you. Then we see all together. Basically, we will get the data something like this: a row, and then the employee underscore ID. So then we can get the ID from the database like this. Alright, so what we want to do, we want to check if it is present in this array. So again, if we guessed it right, we need to use the inArray function. So we say not in array and this is the ID. And what is the array? All IDs from CSV. This is the array and pass true to be strict. And here we simply say echo, and we can say like this ID is not present in database, so it's gonna give us a notification, something like that. So not present in database. We can put a break here so we can see the new line. Alright, and also if you want to, you can also put the log too. So simply it will tell that what ID is missed. So we can simply copy this from here to here, and this is info, and it is going to be okay. Till here. So we are using single quotes here, so we use single quote. Single like this. And we don't need $index in this case. Okay, so it should be fine. So now it will go here. It is going to check everything, and it's going to tell us if there is any issue. It is going to display here. So currently we say this, like how many files processed each. We can comment that so that we only see. So I'm going to comment this, and here I add one condition that it's going to run at last. So simply say actually in if SQL echo all records are in database verified. Okay, since it's gonna run once only after checking everything. You can also put it on log if you want to. That's really big. So what we do, we check now. So it's not gonna show us this time because I commented it. It is gonna show us this or this. Okay, so let's do this. I go here in users one, we have nothing, and then I go to the files. We need to make sure files is empty, and it is empty indeed. So let's do this. So go back here and refresh. Go here. Files should be getting files now. Now it's 100K, so it's going to be a lot quicker as compared to previously. And our log file is quite big now. Let's see the database if we're there. What is happening? Okay, we have BB when we have no data in database. So why is that? Okay. So it is inserting in users. I forgot to update the query. Let me correct that quickly. Okay, so where we are inserting in database in the first place, there we need to correct it. So we are doing it in here. So we need to also update this to user 1. So then we select user 1 here. Yeah. Okay, go to user 1. User 1 is empty. Alright, now let's go here. And now we need to delete files again. So go and get all the files and delete. Files are gone. Now it should be alright. Let's see. Refresh. Files are generating. Now it's user 1 where it is inserting. You can see 65,000K, and we're gonna see something here once it is complete, because after inserting at last we are checking, so this will run at last. We're almost there. Alright, so it did not give us anything saying like that ID is not present or anything, so that means all records are in database, and it ran this function. It ran all the loop here. It didn't give us this, that's a good news, and it ran this, that means our database is correct and all the data from CSV is inserted there. So yeah, it's a check, and it's working perfectly. Hope you like this. If there a better approach or a different approach that you want to use or you use in your projects, please leave the comment about it. And what do you think? What is the more efficient way to store data or dealing with data when you're dealing with a large data set like this, like dealing with 1 million or plus 1 million records? Yeah, I definitely would like to know more about it. So what your thoughts are about it. So see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. And